Mr. Bernal, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Les Bernal, and I'm the National Director of Stop Predatory Gambling. Our focus is government-sponsored gambling, whether it's casinos, state lotteries, tribal casinos, or the topic of today's hearing, which is internet gambling. Government-sponsored gambling is playing a major role in the rising unfairness and inequality in American life, and it's directly impacting the lives of your constituents in your district. Up until about 10 years ago, for me, government-sponsored gambling was like the paint on the wall. You know, it was just there. I never questioned it. But when you finally stop to look at it, you can't avoid the obvious evidence that this public policy is contributing to the unfairness and inequality in our country, which has been considered one of the defining issues of our times by leaders from across the political spectrum. Banning the practice of states sponsoring internet gambling, which the bill before you would do, is part of the foundation of any serious effort towards reversing this rising inequality in our country. One important job of the federal government is to ensure that every state gives every citizen equal protections under the law. Yet at this moment in history, state governments across the United States are blatantly cheating and exploiting their own citizens, infringing on the rights of millions of Americans through the extreme forms of gambling they sponsor and market to our communities. Many of these state-sponsored games, especially electronic gambling machines, are designed mathematically so users are certain to lose their money the longer they play. At the same time, these games are literally designed so citizens can't stop using them. They're exploiting aspects of human psychology and inducing irrational behavior. Citizens, your constituents, aren't demanding these extreme forms of gambling. No one's pounding the table for this in your district. In partnership with commercial gambling operators, states are forcing these gambling games onto the public. The most recent poll of New Jersey voters found that 57% opposed online gambling and only 32% approved. This is after their state government began sponsoring online gambling in 2013. So if not for the federal government, who will step in to protect the rights of individuals, your constituents, against these blatantly dishonest practices that are contributing to inequality and being done by an active, predatory state? People are and should remain free to wager money and to play games of chance for money. But while citizens have every right to engage in a financially damaging activity, the government has no business encouraging them to do it. In most of your congressional districts, 5% of your district, about 35,000 of your constituents, have been turned upside down by gambling, most of which was sponsored by state government. This figure does not account for the reality that each of these citizens has at least 1 to 2 people close to them whose lives are also upended because of this public policy. There is no debate that the financial losses of these individuals, these people being harmed by this public policy, they make up the majority of the revenue taken by state-sponsored casinos and lotteries. Millions of men and women and their families have sacrificed and hurt so much to provide these needed revenues to American government. But no one has ever thanked them for their service. There are no parades with fluttering American flags in the breeze, no yellow ribbons. Our country simply renders these people as failures. Banning state-sponsored internet gambling also creates more fairness for the 2/3 of your constituents who almost never use government-sponsored gambling. Because of this public policy, they are paying higher taxes for less services. State-sponsored casinos and lotteries have proven to be a failed source of government revenue, and they haven't delivered on their famous promises to fund education, lower taxes, or to pay for needed public services. The evidence is clear that state-run gambling operations add to, rather than ease, long-term budget problems for states. Internet gambling, sponsored by government, will only make it worse. That's why state-sponsored gambling is the symbol of anti-reform politicians across the United States, regardless of party. No taxation without representation was one of America's founding principles. After 40 years of state governments using lotteries and casinos to prey on their own citizens, to extract as much money as possible, the time has come to add the principle of no taxation by exploitation beneath it. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Fagan.